in the chat a lot. When I get an idea for a show, it might be just a one-word idea for a future show. Sometimes I just write on a piece of paper and never get to it. And I've had Chicago haunted cemeteries on my list for months. And it was like one of those things I'd have to research because I've heard so much about haunted Chicago, but I don't know much about it. I have to research it all. And what better than have someone on that actually investigates these cemeteries frequently and has other supposed haunted locations in the Chicago area that he's investigated. And I found a friend of mine, Matt Knudsen. He's the founder of Southside Paranormal Society. And he's investigated homes, cemeteries, and historic locations. And I'd like to bring him on now. If you're there, Mr. Matt Knudsen. Matt?
Yes, I'm here. How's it going, guys?
How you doing, buddy?
Doing good. How you guys doing tonight?
Doing well.
I was happier than some kind of candy corn squirrel or something.
Candy corn squirrel.
I don't remember what it was, but I'm going to also be sharing I'm going to be sharing your links, Matt, for your YouTube channel, which is great, and your Southside page during the chat. And
sure.
And first, before we get started with anything, I want to. Yesterday, we were talking about like some stories you had, so we had an idea what we wanted to talk about. And I stole my first question. I blatantly stole this right from your page today. It is said that
what do you want to ask?
It is said that most young children have a stronger connection with the supernatural, understanding and communicating with them. Have you, as a child, experienced anything paranormal?
Yes, absolutely. This wasn't just something that I started doing just overnight. I've been having these experiences and encounters with the paranormal since I was a baby, but as far as I can remember, my very first paranormal encounter was I had a dream, and I was sleeping, and during the dream, I had a vision that I saw my great-grandmother say goodbye to me, and she was visiting me in my dream saying goodbye, and at this time, she was really sick, she had an illness, and she didn't have too much longer to go, and then when I woke up the next morning, our family received a phone call that, that she passed away. So in a way, it's like she kind of let me know that she was crossing over and that everything was going to be all right. So that was really what really hit me and gave me a wake-up call, like, wow, this really happened,
Yeah. And I was telling you, I've told it on a previous episode that I almost had the same exact experience as you with the same visions, the same scenery and everything. It was very similar. We found out relatives died the next day.
Wow.
I believe that. Yeah.
Now, I want to talk to you about Bachelors Grove, Resurrection Mary, a bunch of other places you investigated. But before we go into that, I wanted to know, tell everybody how old you are.
25.
He's only 25 years old, and you started like a few years ago, right?
I started doing paranormal investigating since I was 22, yeah.
Right, that's about when I started. And tell me, and you were mentioning before you had one piece of equipment when you started. What was your first equipment you had?
First piece of equipment was it was actually like a friend of mine, but he let me and my friend use it. It was one of those Radio Shack like radio frequency boxes, and we didn't have no recorders. We didn't, I didn't have any spectrum cameras, and didn't have any EMF detectors. We just, we started like, really small. Like I usually did this by myself, but I have a few friends that are a big part of the Southside Paranormal Society, and they try to come along when they can, depending on work schedules. But yeah, I started off really small, with just using equipment, and then I just started building on top of that over the months and days and a few years. So
what type of equipment do you have now?
Yeah, I pretty much just got, I got recorders. Like I said, I got 2 different kinds of cameras. Let's see, I got the PSB7 Spirit Box. It's channels 12 frequencies per second, and spirits could use that energy to communicate through the frequencies, and it could give you, it's a possibility they could give you direct responses or even just relative answers to what you're looking for, which could possibly be paranormal, which we believe that it could be a spirit communicating with you at a live rate. And, I don't have, way too much more than that. I mean, that's pretty much the only stuff that I pretty much use.
Yeah. Now, if you had to go on an investigation with only one piece of that equipment, which one would you take?
That's a good question. If I only had to just bring one piece of equipment, what would it be? I would say probably my digital recorder, my EVP recorder. Because I think, in my opinion, the EVP recorder is the best piece of evidence with the paranormal. Because, like I said, it can pick up voices you can't hear with your own ears. And, that's an easy, quiet session. And like I said, if you make any noises on there, you get debunk them. But if a voice comes through and speaks to you, there's no reason why that should happen if you're by yourself or you're in a quiet environment and you can't really back up the reason why it happened. It really gets you thinking,
Yeah. Yeah, and it's funny, Jimmy. The reason I ask that is we always ask that when we have people on, groups on the show I do with Dr. Dave, Tech Time with Brock and Doc. And it seems like we've had a few that have said something besides voice recorder, but it seems like almost 90% of the time people say they're voice recorders, and I would have to agree with them. I mean, that's one thing that you can go in there and keep running, that you can, get some evidence on, and you can also record everything what's going on. So yeah. It's interesting to hear that that's kind of consistent.
And since you started with the your one piece of equipment, what other things do you use now?
Like I said, my other pieces. I use the EVP digital recorder, which is a Sony digital recorder, just basic, HDMI hookup. I can plug it in. I can record review the audio on there. Like I said, there's times where, I can pick up voices on there and can't hear clearly. I can enhance the audio. So I got the EVP I use. Let's see, the full spectrum camera. That's probably my second favorite device that I enjoy using. That's a very, very unique item that I like. It's a camera that you can't really see with the human eye, and with the camera can pick it up. Like, it's an ultraviolet kind of color. I'm sure you heard of it. You can pick up, type of mist on there. You can pick up apparitions on there. It's been really, really a big success, especially at Bachelors Grove. I've caught a lot of unexplained apparitions there, and that camera has really done a lot. And I'd have to say probably 80-90% of the time I'm at Bachelors Grove by myself. I go there on my days off, my other job. I just go up there and do a little audio recording and take a few photos, and it's pretty amazing what I catch up there sometimes.
While we're on the photo subject, I posted a few of your pictures in the chat. I just did one so far, and I think most of the ones are from Bachelors Grove using the full spectrum. And I posted one that, to me, I don't know if you could see it in the chat, but it's kind of on a path, and it's in the woods. It looks to me like almost a woman in the in the trees, almost like a Native American look. I don't know which one I'm talking about. It says July 16th, 2014, photo 56 from Bachelors Grove.
Yeah, I see what you're talking about, Jimmy. It looks like it's in the grass.
Yeah. And then and then you have one labeled little girl. I'm going to put in there, or possible little girl.
Yeah,
the little girl one was at I'm trying to. That might have been Ox Sable. It's like a clear red photo that's out in the open. Like the shadows out in the open. There's nothing around it.
This one here is. It's right next to there's one big giant tree in the middle of the picture, and then it looks like almost a Jawa.
Is it like really dark? Is it like a small dark shadow?
Yes.
Yeah, that's as a matter of fact, I remember taking that photo. Legend goes, I don't know if it's true, like I said, you really can't pinpoint what kind of ghost it is, what kind of entity it may be, because like I said, at the time these conversations don't really add up to the same spirit. Like I said, there could be hundreds of spirits at Bachelors Grove, but as far as legend goes, I heard that it's a spirit named Lillian May, and I've heard this legend from other people that go there and locals saying that there's a little girl that was buried in there named Lillian May, and people say that she makes an appearance there from time to time, and she had some type of accident there. I don't know what happened, but she passed away there, and people say that her spirit's unrested. So, not saying it's her, but that's just one of the legends that goes around. So,
and I love legends. Okay, I finally got that picture in there. If anyone wants to look at it, it's a little black figure right there in the middle of the picture. That was from like you said, it might have been the Ox. I forget the name of it.
Ox Sable Cemetery. Yeah, that's it's in Minooka, Illinois. And
then, could you tell us? Is there any history behind Bachelors Grove, or is it just highly active? I didn't find much history about it, like the resurrection one, but did people just find it highly active when they're investigating it, or is there some kind of history to it?
Yeah, Bachelors Grove, it's been having activity in there, and a lot of stuff's been going on in there since the late 1800s. Like I said, it used to be a town. It used to be like the whole entire Forest Reserve used to be a town. Everybody had houses in there. There were streets in there. They had, big picnics in there, festivals in there. It used to be just a road until all these woods and forest area grew. So there was a lot of, accidents that happened there in the town. There were fires in there. There were people that got murdered in there, because that just leans over to the mobster history. In Chicago, you got a lot of mobster history that goes on, which makes it really unique. Is you got the Al Capone era, you got the John Dillinger era, you got all these guys, well-known guys that were involved in all these massacres and all these gang-affiliated topics, and drug smuggling and gambling, and these mobsters, they used to do a lot of dirty work up there. They would dump all these dead bodies into the nearby creek of Bachelors Grove. They would kill people out there that owed them money, or if like a prostitute tried to backstab them in a way, like the prostitute owed them money or something, anything that you could do to piss off the mobsters, they did whatever they wanted back there. So it was a place for dumping bodies. What else? As far as I know, there was a lot of dark history there when it comes to monk activity and just a lot of rituals that went on there. It's got a bunch of stuff rolled up into one.
And while we're on the subject of pictures, the last one not to put you on the spot, because I keep posting pictures and you don't know which ones I'm doing. It's a black and white, and it looks like it's a picture from a cemetery. It looks like a chain link fence on the right hand side. It looks like a clear figure of a man wearing black pants and almost like maybe his hands are in his pockets.
It's a picture of Dr. Dave.
Yeah. I don't know where this is from, but it's a pretty cool picture, I think.
It was. I remember taking that photo. It happened not too long ago. It was just a regular, ordinary afternoon. I had no work. I had nothing planned, so I was like, let's go up to Bachelors Grove and see what happens, So I'm going up there and I'm taking photos, and I would say most of the time I use red spectrum color. For some reason, my eyesight seems like it's always better with the red vision camera. When I have the red spectrum color on there. And, and there's times I'll switch to black and white too, and I just happen to do some more black and white photos there that day. And I remember snapping that photo, and, what I do sometimes is I'll do a little investigation, and there I'll come home, and I'll go over my stuff and see what I caught. And I remember scanning through my photos, and then I look over in the corner of that photo that you're talking about, and I'm like, what is that, And I zoomed in closely, and I looked closer. I'm like, that looks like a person, And I showed a few other local guys that are good friends of mine in the area, and I'm like, do you recognize this shadow? Like, what is this thing? And my friends could actually recall that they've seen that shadow in the cemetery before. So, I really thought that was interesting,
Yeah. And there's a lot of people that are, so skeptics when they see a ghost picture. They said it's matrixing, pareidolia, and all that. But I think it's fun finding faces and bodies in pictures. It's fun,
Yeah.
It's unexplained. Yeah, not everything could be paranormal, but there are some things and situations and captures that happen that really scratch your head. There's a lot of stuff that you could also debunk too.
Right. And wow, I think we're just about at break time.
Yeah, I know.
Wow.
It's crazy.
We got a lot more to talk about. I think we're going to go on break. If you're there, we're talking to Matt Knudsen of Southside Paranormal Society, and we have a ton more to talk about, and we'll see you in a couple minutes.
Oh, that's pretty good.
So, Matt. Is Matt there? Matt,
yeah,
do you want to tell us? You pick one that you want to talk about first. I got the Congress Hotel written down, Archer Woods, or Robinson Woods. You pick.
I would like to start Robinson Woods, if that's all right, guys.
Yeah, let's talk about Robinson Woods. What is it, and what's going on there?
Robinson Woods is it's a very famous forest reserve, like in the northwest Cook County of Illinois. Very historical place. It's about 265 acres of land. It once belonged to a chief of the Indian tribe named Alexander Robinson. Him and his family owned a lot of the property there. And throughout the 1800s, there were a lot of wars that took place there, with a lot of settlers and a lot of other different tribes getting involved in the whole entire rumble in the area. And there were a lot of deaths that happened there. Back then, the medical relief wasn't as strong. There wasn't a lot of medicine you could take, care yourself for diseases. There were people that were eating out of just infected waters and getting all these types of, stuff happening to them that they couldn't get cured. So there's a lot of deaths in this area, and it's a very interesting place. I've been there a few times, and I've gotten some pretty unique audio from there. I've gotten a lot of deeper native voices coming through. There was a couple photos that I snapped in there that were really unexplained. Of just shadows in there, I can't really say it's an Indian shadow that I've captured there, but it's described that looks like it. But like I said, one of the settlers could look like a native. He could have a long hair and beard also, but I've caught unexplained stuff in there, and it's definitely, when you're in there, you're definitely not alone. And, when you're in there, you're on their territory, so you always got to be respectful.
What places have you gotten your best EVPs at? What location?
Let's see. Best EVPs. I'd say probably there's a few top ones. Like I said, I've gotten good ones at Bachelors. Archer Woods, I've gotten really good ones too. It's kind of hard to explain. It all depends. It depends on where I was at. I've gotten a couple good ones at houses. It's really hard to pick the best EVPs, but it depends,
Could you give us a couple of ones that you've gotten? Like, just tell us what what kind of communication you've gotten from like nicknames or sentences, or what are some of the more interesting ones?
Sure, yeah. I caught one EVP at Robinson Woods. I remember I had my EMF detector out in my on my left hand, and I had my digital recorder on my right hand. And I remember getting a very high spike on the EMF, and the temperature gauge was dropping down dramatically. And I was like, okay, it feels like something's here. And I'm in the middle of the woods, and there's no electrical currents anywhere. There's no, wires above me. There's no wires underground. And I was like, something's going on here. I'm like, where are you at? Where can I see you? And right when I played back the audio, and right after I said, where can I see you? And I heard, right here. And I was like, wow, I couldn't believe that I heard that. And I remember continuing on with the EVP, because like I said, I keep, chapping along, talking along on the EVP, and I don't really find out the voices until I play it back. That's when I find out what happened. But I remember saying, I remember sticking my hand out, and it was really cold. And I was like, are you right over here? And then I heard, a yes. It was crazy. It's like I had a full-on conversation with the spirit for about a good 5 minutes. And I didn't even really realize until I played back the audio. I wasn't alone the whole time. It was pretty cool.
Now, have you ever tried, I know some people don't like the RT EVP, the real-time EVP recorder. Have you ever tried any of those, or tried to listen to your recording while you're recording an investigation?
Well, I've heard of them, and I haven't really used any of those yet. Like I said, I just use basic digital recorders, because like I said, it's better to go over what you heard and what's going on, because like I said, there's a lot of things that could also be really debunked. I mean, there could be stuff that is explainable, you know what I mean? Especially if you go to places out during the day, there could be somebody screaming out the window driving by or something like that. So if you catch a loud noise or a voice right away, you always got to trace back your steps and be like, okay, it's this time of the day, this is my surroundings. And not to mention, when you're in the forest preserve area, there's also a lot of animals that, that come and go in there. There's a lot of deers, rabbits, and, those other types of animals in there. And sometimes they make, tree noises and crackling noises. And, you got to think there's tons of leaves on the ground, because I was there last fall. And, I mean, there's parts of the forest preserve you couldn't even see the ground, so it's also dangerous to walk through there, because you could be walking and, there's a couple steep hills, you don't even notice. So you always got to be cautious.
Yeah. I just, some people don't like them because if you're asking the questions and listening to the recorder, you get that couple seconds and then you hear your question back. And when I try to do it, it confused me. And my brain's like, wait, I'm hearing myself again. And it just messes you up. So a lot of people don't like it for that reason. But I was just curious, if you had tried anything to get a real-time review. We always recommend going and reviewing the evidence again. But I didn't know if you thought about trying that on some of the investigations. So I think you pretty much answered that for us.
Right. For the EVP wise, the only real-time audio would probably be the PSV7 Spirit Box. That's pretty much considered my real-time device. But when it comes to a real-life EVP recorder, I haven't used one of those. But I know the PSV7 Spirit Box. And like I said, though, it's a radio transmission, so it always depends on the type of area you're at. There's times where I don't use it, and there's times that I do. It seems like it's, some parts it's a little bit easier to use in some other areas, because I believe if you get direct responses toward you, to your questions, or even calls out your name, and that's going back to Archerwood Cemetery. Now, this is probably one of the best pieces of evidence that I've ever captured on a spirit box. Was I even have a few friends of mine that weren't even believers in the paranormal until they watched my clip a few years ago. That I was at Archer Woods. It was probably middle of the night. You know, really creepy. You know, you can't see any lights. It's right down. What you call it? It's right down. It's like by Summit area. You know, Summit. It's like a suburb down south in Illinois. Bridgeview area, you know, so it's like, you know, there's not a lot of streetlights over there. It's a dark area, so you can't really see nothing. Well, I was inside the graveyard, and I remember channeling the spirit box, and this is probably my second or third time being in this location. And I remember the first time I was there, I was introducing my name, you know, and telling them why I'm there and what I wanted to do and stuff like that, you know. And I remember going there the next time after that, and I remember my one friend at the time was with me, and we were asking questions through the spirit box, seeing if we were getting any intelligent responses. And at that night, I was wearing a red T-shirt and jeans. And I'll never forget that moment. I remember exactly what I was wearing and exactly where we were at the cemetery. And I remember my friend asked the question. He was like, well, who's the guy in the red shirt? And he pointed at me, and he's like, what's his name? And a few seconds, the channeling of the spirit box was going, and you hear a clear as day, Knudsen. And it's funny because my name is Knudsen, right? And the K is silent as the night. Like, it was really, really unique because it's not like it was reading it off a sheet. He said it like he knew who I was. And I thought that was clear as day, some really good evidence.
Interested in maybe checking out some of these places. We should do a Paramania remote location and just go on site and do some of these places.
Live from Chicago. You up for that, Matt?
Yeah, absolutely, man. You know, I'm definitely down to do this again. Just, you know where to find me. You know, sign me up.
Cool.
Yeah, we got a lot of good feedback in the chat room for you. They like you in here. And also, like Fuzzy, the chat room mascot, has his own Facebook page now. That's in the chat. Please click on that and give him a like.
Awesome. Well, cool. Another great show.
Another great show. And we should be back next week. And thank you, Matt. Thank you, Brock. Thank you, Dr. Dave. And thank you, everybody listening and in the chat. And we'll see you next week on the Haunted Chronicles. Good night.
See y'all next week. Good night.